Welcome, everyone. You are here for the June 1st, 2021 docket of the BNC Zoning Appeals. Before we start, my name is Katie Byrne. I'm the acting executive director, and I'll be turning it over to the chair shortly, but I just want to explain a little bit as to how WebEx works for your hearing. If you've signed in via the internet, you're considered an attendee. So right now, you don't have the ability to mute yourself or unmute yourself or to share your screen. If you look at the bottom, you'll see a microphone, camera buttons, and a chat feature with some additional options. You should be able to see myself and the board on the screen. When your case is called, I will make you a panelist and unmute you. If your camera is functional, you can turn on your camera and we'll be able to see you. For those attendees that are calling in, if you wish to testify, what will happen is I will click on your phone and you will hear two beeps. If you wish to speak on that matter, please speak up after you hear the two beeps. If not, I will click off and move on to the next caller. If you're unable to connect to audio, please use the chat feature. If a speaker is inaudible, they're going to be directed to call back. There are two ways you can testify. You can use the raise your hand function, or you can put a message in the chat if you wish to testify. Please note that I will not be looking at the question and answer. There's just not enough room on the side for me to monitor both the chat and the question and answer. As we get into the cases, the order of testimony is as follows. The applicant goes first, followed by support, then opposition, and then the applicant goes last, getting in the last word, and testimony will then close. Anyone speaking on any matter before this board, please note you are presumed to be testifying under oath and that you are telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you have any issues with WebEx, you can please call our office. We have people here able to answer the phone. Please don't email me directly during the hearing because I'm not looking at my email or calling me directly. Our office phone number is 410-396-4301. And again, if you're having technical difficulties and you cannot participate at all, you may also email bmza@baltimorecity.gov to explain your technical difficulties. We have 4 board members here today. Your cases will be called by the chair, and we will proceed through the entire docket. Please note that your case may not be called in the order that it appears on the agenda that is published on the website. At the conclusion of the hearing, the chair will close testimony and the board will deliberate, and no further testimony will be taken and no further comments are permitted. So after those fun announcements, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Fields, our chair.
Very well, thank you, Ms. Byrne. Appreciate that. For the viewing audience, just to let you know, I don't have video. Sometimes it goes in and out for us, and today mine doesn't seem to be working at all. So just bear with us on those technical issues. The board will vote on each case and make a decision at the end of the docket, unless for some reason the board determines that it needs to either receive additional information or some other issue that requires a referral. Normally, we will be making this. You certainly have the option of staying on to hear those deliberations, participate in them. Otherwise, you can call the BMZA office tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. Number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. You should receive your resolution in the mail within 30 days. And we ask that you not do any work until your resolution is received. And of course, don't do any work within Baltimore City without pulling the proper permit. On today's docket, there are a few comments or withdrawals. Listen for these case numbers. If you had planned to participate on these cases, know that they will not be going forward today. First case that is withdrawn, case number 2020-257, 617 South Wolf Street. The appellant on that matter was Adam Carballo. And that's 220-257, 617 South Wolf Street. That will not be heard today. The next withdrawn case is case number 2021-055, 301 West Lombard Street. The appellant there is Mr. J.R. Woolman. Again, 2021-055, 301 West Lombard Street. And the final withdrawn case today is case number 2021-066, 5506 Lombard Avenue. The appellant there is Adam Fisher. Again, 2021-066, 5506 Lombard Avenue. That matter will not be heard today. We have I guess, a fairly lengthy consent docket today, and for those of you who don't know, consent matters are those cases for which the board has determined that it has sufficient evidence or information to grant the appellant. So effectively, by hearing, I'll call the case, ask for any reports, and ask if there's anything additional that the appellant would like to add before we resolve the case on the record. And so I'll just go and call those order to appear on the docket, and I'll leave it to Byrne behind you. First case on the consent docket is case number 2021-037, 6709 Westbrook Road. The appellant is Colbert Max Rosenfeld, and this is a request to demolish the existing structure, new 2-story with basement, single-family detached dwelling with attached garage. I'll hear any reports we have from staff and their planning.
From Friend, Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fred.
For the variances requested, maximum impervious surface variance 40% maximum, 48% is proposed. Maximum interior side yard setback of 15 feet required, 6 feet are proposed. We have several letters of support from neighbors. We received this morning also a letter in support from the Cross Country Improvement Association for the application before the board. I will find the applicant now. Looks like it was, I think Elisa sent us, please raise your hand or put in the chat if you're here for 6709 Westbrook. There we go. All right, there you are, Elisa. Let's find you in the list of attendees. There you are. Nope, that's not you. Simon, do you see her? 037. There you are. Okay, gotcha. All right, Elisa, you are unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Barely, Ms. Hartmark.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay.
Thank you for appearing today. Again, we're here on case number 2021-037, 6709 Westbrook Road. And I'll ask, ma'am, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
Not at this time.
Very well. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Following the next case on the consent docket, case number 2021-041, 6465 Frankfort Avenue. The appellant is Carolyn Hecker, and this is a request to use the building for automotive repair and related accessory uses, including auto body repair, mechanical repair, paint shop, car rental, towing, and general office use. Now, hear any reports from me.
Planning Department has no comment on this application other than to confirm that the applicant has worked with this department staff to develop an application that is consistent with floodplain regulations, as part of this property is within the regulated floodplain. That's all. Thank you.
We have in this project conditional use for motor services and repair, major or minor. We have a letter of support from the Frankfort Improvement Association in the file, and I will make Ms. Hecker a panelist. Ms. Hecker?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin, Greenberg on behalf of the applicant. As Ms. Burns said, we've submitted a series of exhibits for the board's record here, including a letter of support from the local community association. And so we're prepared to proceed with that.
All right. Well, thank you for those submissions, Ms. Hecker. I'll ask the standard question. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, thank you.
Very well. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much. Well, in the next matter, let's see, let me make sure we have. Okay, we don't have any more.
McCullough, remember McCullough, we're moving to the regular docket.
Right. Case number 2021-050, 2238 Bank Street. The appellant is Ajani Cornero. This is a request seeking a variance to bulk regulation for demolition and reconstruction, and to reconstruct a two-story rear addition, 12 feet by 22 feet. I'll hear any staff or planning with.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
The variance requested is due to an infill development. The footprint itself will not be expanded. The variance is requested, maximum lot coverage 80%, maximum 100% proposed, minimum rear yard setback of 25 feet required, 0 feet proposed. So I have, let's see, our applicant, I will make him a panelist. All right. Mr. Cornero, you are unmuted.
All right. Yep. Can hear you.
Good afternoon, sir. Because you're on the consent docket, I just have one question for you, and that is there anything else you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, I'm just rebuilding addition that was there before. So that's keeping it a little larger than it was before, but same addition, same location. Nothing more I can do about it.
Okay.
That's it for me.
All right, very well. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Calling case number 2021-058, 3804 West Rogers Avenue. The appellant is Matthew Akinyemi. Request to use the premises as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 dwelling units and associated variances. You ready? Report.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
In doing the research on 3804 West Rogers Avenue, the property was a valid multifamily dwelling prior to 2011 with 3 dwelling units. Had a vacant building notice in 2011. Several applications for single-family dwellings were applied for, but never issued. So the last legal authorized use was as a 3-dwelling unit for this particular property, based on based on staff research. So I will look for Mr. Akanami. If you are here, Mr. Akanami, if you could please raise your hand. And if not, I will go through the individual callers. So
Okay.
if you're the applicant for 3804 West Rogers Avenue, and I click and you hear 2 beeps, please speak. Okay, moving on to the next caller. 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 Got one more caller.
Yes.
Yes. Are you here? 3804 West Rogers?
Oh no, I'm 411 Wilson Street.
Okay. Sorry, sir. This is not the one you're calling on. All right. So I don't see anything in the chat, and none of the call-in users said hello. So maybe we can move this to the back of the docket. I'll ask Roxana to see if she can get the applicant on the phone.
All right, we'll come back to 2021-058. Moving
Okay.
on to Case number 2021-059, 621 South Port Street. The appellant is Scott Tanner. This case involves a variance to bulk regulations to demo the existing addition at first floor rear, construct a two-story rear addition, a third floor addition, and a rooftop deck. I don't hear any staff and/or planning reports.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Again, the application in minimum rear yard setback 20 feet required, 0 proposed, maximum lot coverage 80%, maximum 100% proposed. Again, as with the other one, this is a variance required due to infill development. So the footprint itself will not be expanded. This is new construction on an infill lot. I see Scott Tanner here in the attendee list. I will make him a panelist. Mr. Tanner?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tanner. Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Very well. The board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next case on the consent docket, case number 2021-060, 420 East Randall Street. The appellant is Paul Brinkman. This is a request to use premises as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 dwelling units and associated variances. Here are the reports for you.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, has no objection to it, recommends that approval be subject to the condition that the proposed third floor addition is completed in accordance with plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. French.
As in prior applications, this is a variance required due to infill development. In other words, the footprint will not be expanded. Variances requested include rear setback of 20 feet required, 0 proposed, maximum lot coverage, 60% maximum, 100% proposed. And I see Mr. Brinkman is here. I will make him a panelist.
Great.
Mr. Brinkman?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
We sure can, Mr. Brinkman. Thank you for appearing today.
Thank you.
Sir, is there anything? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to add something because it appears that you guys have the incorrect information. I'm not looking for a 3-person dwelling, and this popped up. This is just my home. It's a single-family home, and all I'm asking for is the actual extension to the rear with the decks and then the third-story addition. But it will only be a single-family home. It will have no proponent. It won't be a 3-family or a 3-unit dwelling.
Okay, wait a minute.
We didn't have that in the application, sir. We only had the 2 variances.
Okay, good. Because it said something about a 3 initially. But anyway, that just want to make that clear. Okay, but everything else the same.
Okay, very well. Well, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. So much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good day.
You too. Have a great one.
I believe I read what was on our docket for that. There, we got it.
Okay.
Right now. Moving on, case number, wait a minute, variance opposition. I think we're down to 067.
Yes.
Case number 2021-067, 5732 Green Spring Avenue. The appellant is Max Tucker. This is a request to install a parking pad in front of the property. Now, hear any reports we may have.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
So this is a variance under the parking requirements under zoning code 16404. The variance procedure applies to changes in certain parking requirements. So I will have Mr. Tucker elevated as a panelist. So essentially, to get a parking pad in your front yard, you have to request a variance.
Okay.
Mr. Tucker?
Hi, everyone. Nothing really to add to the additional application. Basically, I don't have an alleyway. I don't have any access to my rear yard, which is where the parking pad would be generally approved otherwise. My front yard, all of my neighbors have a parking pad in the front. I'm requesting the same opportunity as they did to have the parking pad.
Well, very well, Mr. Tucker. I think we can accommodate that. Board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Right. Have a good day. Next case on the consent docket, case number 2021-069, 245 North Carey Street. The appellant is Mohammed Hindi, and this is a request to use upper floors for 2 dwelling units and associated variance. Hear any report?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
What's required is a parking to 1 off-street variance. 2 spaces are required, 0 are proposed, or off-street parking variance, 2 spaces are required, 0 proposed. The research on this particular property shows in 1994, the occupancy was reduced from 2 dwelling units and liquor store to liquor store only. Kitchen facilities were removed from the 2nd and 3rd floors. 2nd and 3rd floors were vacant and locked up. The liquor store on the 1st floor is still a non-conforming use. So to use the premises as a multifamily dwelling, 2 units on the upper floor. And Mr. Hindi, I believe, is going to be a call-in user. He had left a voicemail message on our phone earlier. I will just go through and look. So I'm going to start with call-in users. Mr. Hindi, if after you hear the 2 beeps, please speak. Moving to the next caller. Moving to the next caller.
Yes, so how you doing?
Mr. Hindi?
This is, oh, no.
Okay.
It's
All right.
411 Wilson Street.
All right, hold on. Mr. Hindi? 2 more calls. Are you here for 245 North Carey? Next one. Are you here for 245 North Carey? Okay. Mr. Hindi did leave a voicemail message at our office about trying to connect with the hearing. I think we might have to move this one to the end of the docket as well.
Okay, will do. Well, on to case number 2021-070, 4011 Hickory Avenue. The appellant is Garrett Adler, and this matter involves a variance to bulk regulations to construct a 2-story rear addition. I'll hear any reports.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank
Small variance requested, maximum lot coverage, 50% is the maximum. What's being proposed is 59.5% lot coverage. I see Mr. Adler. I will go ahead and make him a panelist. Mr. Adler?
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, Mr. Adler. Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
I don't have anything I'd like to add, but thank you.
Okay, very well. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, have a great day.
You too.
All right. Case number 2021-071, 1001 South Carey Street. The appellant is Adam Carballo, and this matter involves variance to bulk regulations to construct a 2-story addition at 2nd and 3rd floor here. And I'll hear any reports we may have.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Variance requested is the minimum rear yard setback. 25 feet is required in the
I got
code.
another one.
0 feet is proposed. The variance is required due to infill development and the footprint itself will not be expanded. I see Mr. Carballo. I will make him a panelist. Mr. Carballo?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carballo. Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, sir.
Very well. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you
so much. Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Moving on to case number 2021-109, 1604 West North Avenue. The appellant is Harford Brothers Development. Matter involves a variance to bulk regulations to consolidate 1604 and 1606 West North Avenue, 1608 and 1610 West North Avenue, 1614 through 1618 West North Avenue, and develop 3 mixed-use multifamily dwellings that will contain a total of 20 dwelling units and commercial space. Off-street parking required. I'll hear any reports from me.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval, subject to the condition that all proposed improvements and landscaping are completed and maintained in accordance with plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 variances requested. Minimum lot area variance for building A, 4,000 square feet required, 3,570 square feet proposed. Minimum lot area variance for A and B, again, 3,300 square feet required, 2,380 square feet proposed. Off-street parking variances for buildings A, B, and C, 1 space per dwelling unit, 0 proposed. We have letters of support from the community and also a letter of support from Councilman Stokes. I see Brendan Scriber here. I will make him a panelist. He is the applicant.
Okay.
Mr. Scriber?
Hi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us if there's anything you'd like to add to your application at this time, sir?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Terrific. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Ms. Byrne, I guess we can relegate those other 2 consent matters. I guess I can call them at the end of the docket.
Yes, it looks like we might have Rod, let me see. I just got a message from Matthew Akanimi. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can see him in the, all right, there he is. So Mr. Akanimi is here for
058. All right, recall that one.
Okay.
All right. Recalling again, case number 2021-058, 3804 West Rogers Avenue. The appellant is Matthew Akinyemi. This is to use as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 dwelling units and associated variances.
Mr. Akanimi?
Yes, I'm with you. Can you hear me now?
Wow. I like the echo here.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Hello?
We've got an echo, but
Hello?
yes, we can hear you. Mr. Akinemi?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because when you called me, I was on the phone. I was saying hello, but nobody could hear me. Then someone called me from the office. So.
Okay, great. Sir, I have one question for you. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application today?
No.
All right. Very well. On the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Okay. No problem. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. And I will relegate number 2021-069, Mr. Hindi, at the end of have some luck then. All right. Now we're going to turn our attention to the regular docket and start with right at the top, case number 2020-088, 2763, the Alameda. The appellant is Jonathan Walcott. This is a request to continue the use of premises for and as a multifamily dwelling for 2 dwelling units and associated variances. Now, hear any planning or staff report?
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, which was originally scheduled for hearing on April 7th of 2020. This property is located in the Coldstream Homestead Montebello Urban Renewal Plan area. This particular urban renewal plan does not prohibit or further restrict the proposed use. However, there is also a Coldstream Homestead Montebello Area Master Plan, which includes specific goals such as increasing opportunities for home ownership, encouraging rehabilitation of vacant homes and new construction throughout the area, and encouraging rehabilitation and preservation of existing housing stock in areas of strength. This particular property was originally the subject of review by the board in an appeal 2012-318, which was made by this same applicant. and it continued approval of multifamily use as 2 dwelling units. However, a vacant building notice was issued at that time, and no further action was, at least on record, taken by the owner, which means the property has sat vacant under this owner's control for a number of years. And this is something very inconsistent with the Coldstream Homestead Montebello plans. For this reason, the Department of Planning recommends disapproval of the application on the basis that its incompatibility with plans and redevelopment strategies for the community in which it is located. If the board determined that the application is approvable, the department further recommends that approval be subject to the condition that the property is certified as being habitable by issuance of its use and occupancy permit within 12 months of the board's approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
In follow-up with Mr. French's report, the variance requested, minimum lot area variance, 3,000 square feet required, 1,406 square feet proposed. The history of this property is that multifamily was approved by the board in 1969 and then again in 2012. The issue is that the applicant failed to cross the finish line and obtain a use and occupancy after that 2012 BMZA approval. So the last legal authorized use prior to the vacant building notice was as a multi-family. It's Jonathan Walcott is the applicant. I will go through the call-in users, Mr. Walcott, or if you're here in support of 2763 the Alameda, please speak up when you hear 2 beeps. Moving to the next caller.
Yes.
Mr. Walcott, 2763 the Alameda.
No, I'm calling about 245 North Carey. Mr. Hindi.
Oh, Mr. Hindi. Okay.
All right.
James, what do you want to do?
Well, look, we've got him on the line. If we can defer 2020-088 for the moment, let's just quickly recall Mr. Hindy's case number 2021-069, 245 North Carey Street. Again, the appellant is Muhammad Hindi, and this is to use the upper floor, request to use the upper floors for 2 dwelling units and associated variances. We'll hear again any reports, or we can dispense with those. We've heard them previously.
Correct.
So, Mr. Hindi, the one question I have for you, sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
No, that's it. I mean, the building has been remodeled from A to Z, electricity, plumbing, everything. The first floor is commercial, and then the 2 units. And it was a liquor store before, but we're not going to turn it into a liquor store. We're going to turn it into some kind of grocery store or, something like that.
All right, very well. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. That will conclude matter 2021-069. Now we'll jump back into case number 2020-088. We're still looking for Mr. Walcott.
We are. So I've got 2 more call-in users that I'll work through. 2763 the Alameda, Mr. Walcott. All right, one more. Are you here for 2763 the Alameda? No. All right, so let me look again. Nothing. Let me see. We've had difficulty getting Mr. Walcott before. This was on the docket back in March. So, all right. I mean, I think this one we're going to have to move to the end.
Okay. We'll push that back. And move on to leave the case we took off the consent docket, case number 2021-048, 1630 McCullough Street, Stephen, Washington. A request to continue to use portion known as Wilson Street as a carryout food shop. And here, I can't recall if we heard the report or not. But let's see if we can find
Okay,
Mr. Washington.
all right. I'm sorry, Ron McCullough?
Correct.
Mr. French, do you want to speak to McCullough or?
Okay. Doesn't really matter which goes first, right? Yeah, Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that the last record that the department had available to it showed that this property was approved for a variety store by the board back in 2015. At that time, a variety store in the R8 zoning district, which is the previous zoning of this property, was a non-conforming use, and that approval was to continue non-conforming use of the property. This particular property is now zoned R7, and a variety store would be classified now as a retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverage sales, which would be a neighborhood commercial establishment use, which is a conditional use. However, the proposed use as a carryout food shop is not a type of neighborhood commercial establishment, and it is also not separately permitted in the R7 zoning district. The Department of Planning therefore recommends disapproval of this application unless the applicant demonstrates that non-conforming use as a carryout food shop is lawfully established and continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
The application that we have is 1630 McCullough Street for Mr. Washington. The history, again, lengthy history used for non-residential purposes, a variety food store. What the applicant has submitted looks like a carry-out food shop. So I went back and looked at the site plan, and there is no place for it to sit down. And if it's going to be neighborhood commercial, carry-out food shops are not permitted in neighborhood commercial. It would have to be a restaurant if food service is what the individual is looking for.
Okay.
So let me see if I can find Mr. Washington. He's a call-in user. Okay. Mr. Washington?
Yes, yes. Hello, how you doing? This is Mr. Watts. There's some perplexities going on. 1630 is the whole establishment, but there is a pizza shop that's been on the side, 411 Wilson Street. That's what it was before I wanted to make it into what I've made it into now. Something to eat from, a takeout. It's 411 Wilson Street. It's connected to the building that I have, 1630 McCullough Street, because we were unable to really get the information on 411 Wilson Street as far as the zoning and stuff was concerned, because everything is under 1630 McCullough Street. So that's a perplexity. It's already been an eatery and a pizza shop. It's already been existing as that.
What's the application say, Ms. Byrne? Is it 1630?
But it's connected. What happens?
Understand.
Application.
Right. Your application has 1630 as the
That's a general store. I'm in my general store now. I'm in that general store already.
So what you're saying is you're applying for Wilson, which is
It's an eater, but it's under this 1630 ownership. So when I went to do everything with 411, it doesn't compute with 411. It
right.
computes with 1630.
Right. So you have two. So what you're saying is you've got the two uses.
Two dwellings, two different dwellings. Yes.
Well, it sits on the
411.
corner, right? One building.
Yes, it sits on. Right. One's on the corner and one's on the going up the street toward Drew Hill Avenue by Alley, and it's been there. It's not nothing that's just coming there. Like we want to do something that hasn't been done, because we've been eating out there for years. I grew up in this neighborhood. I went to Henry Howland Garnett 103, graduated from there. Same school Thurgood Marshall went to. I've been around this neighborhood for years. So that's always been a place to eat. But when we went to find out, in fact, the zoning fell under 1630. It didn't fall under 411 Wilson Street. the everything is
Yeah,
owned by
the
1630.
issue is it's the same building, it's the same block and lot. You can have multiple uses for the same building in the same block and lot, but the application that was processed looked at the use at 1630, not what you're talking about, which was an alternate
No,
use
right.
for the same block and lot.
Right. No, we're not even talking about 1630 because
Right.
this is already existing. We're talking about the other entity as a whole nother building connected to 1630, but it's on the Wilson Street side. If you turn the corner, this building is from Wilson Street, from McCullough Street all the way up to Wilson Street, and it's three buildings. You have the general store, you have an apartment building, and you have a restaurant carryout. And that's the application that I put in for the carryout, but it wouldn't fall under 411.
Right, because 411 doesn't exist in the system. Only 16.
It's been there. It's been there as a restaurant. Yes, it has.
Sir, I understand.
You understand, sir. It's a paper. You have the reality of what the building is and where it is, but then we have the paper issue that has to follow up, and we're dealing with the paper issue at the moment because it came through the board as 1630. So we're looking at it at 1630. Okay. So we got to figure out what, if anything, there is to do.
So I think, sir, what you're asking us is to look at the Wilson Street side, and can we approve a pizza shop on the Wilson Street side? Is that what you're asking?
Right. Yes. I could send you pictures or whatever needs to be sent, or someone I could. It doesn't matter to me what needs to be done, but it needs to be understood that that's a whole separate entity from 1630.
Right. So, sir, can you see us, or are you just on your phone?
No, I just have I don't have the Zoom anything on my phone. That's why I came into the call with the conversation of the telephone. I didn't have the virtual to Zoom in or anything like that.
So, Mr. French, can you speak to any of this? Because I have what I can share with the board is I have a street view of the Wilson Street side, and it does have a little awning, and it has like a closed door.
Yeah, green awning.
Well, it looks white in this picture, but
no, that's probably old. Yeah, that's probably old. That probably
it was an image from 2020. It's an image that Google took in 2020 that shows a closed kind of little shop on that side. Do we need to redo this?
Yeah. I think the issue here is, and it is documentation, and that is there actually any type of official city record that shows 411 is permitted to be used as a carryout food shop, or for that matter, for any other use separate from 1630 McCullough?
Yes, it was.
That is something you're going to need to research with the zoning administration office.
There is evidence that it was a pizza shop, a restaurant, but not a.
Yes, it was.
Okay, Mr. Wilson.
Hold on, sir. We're going to hear one at a time. Mr. Penny wanted to weigh in. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, so there is evidence that it has been a restaurant in the past. The real question is whether it is going to be a restaurant or a carryout shop. One is permitted, one is not.
For 411.
In the permit system, they are cross-coded with each other. So the actual address is 1630, but it always has a reference known as 411 Wilson Street.
Okay.
It's a fictitious address, kind of.
The floor plan that was included with this application shows a very small customer area inside the entrance. And then it shows
there's a seating
hold on, sir. Wait a minute.
of the floor area being used as the kitchen area, the employee area, the cleaning area, and so on. In other words, basically the food cooking area and the prep area. And then there is a cashier's desk right in front of the customer area inside the entrance. So basically the customer area is only for standing room for the purpose of picking up carry-out orders. And that is a carry-out food shop, and that clearly is not allowed under the current zoning of this property. That's the department's conclusion.
So a pizza shop was allowed, was you walk in and order pizza and you could try your pizza out. It was nowhere to sit in there when it was a pizza shop open. There was nowhere to sit in there. You go in there. Like I said, I grew up in this neighborhood. Been around here for years.
All right,
There
so
was
hold
nowhere
on,
to
hold
sit.
on, sir. Let me ask a question to Mr. French. With regard to the department's conclusion, is that based on the 2017 code, or would it have been prohibited even prior to then, if you know?
It would have been a non-conforming use under the previous zoning code. And basically the issue here is, can the applicant establish that there is continuous non-conforming use of this property as a carry-out food shop? If that is the case, then the board can approve this as a continuing non-conforming use with no change of non-conforming use, because changing non-conforming use is also prohibited under the current zoning code.
And there was a prior BMZA decision in 2015 approving it as a variety store. So a different type of use.
No, that's 1630 McCullough Street. That
Okay,
is not
that may be
carry-out.
true.
Right. I'm in that store right now.
Okay.
I'm in 1630.
So, Mr. Washington, when was the last time the 411 Wilson was used as a carry-out pizza shop?
It's been over probably like 36 months, been over like 3 years or so. Because
Okay.
when I came down there for this 1630 general store, the board, there was no pandemic or anything of sort, so you could come and you could speak and you could talk. So upon being there in person, speaking with the board, talking with the board, they even said before this was considered to be approved that 1630 was something. They said they had an apartment building, and then they also said that there was a food connected to it. It was registered down there like that as something to eat from. Now the pizza shop, like I'm saying, they sold pizzas and French fries and chicken wings and subs, but that's not my whole thing about what I'm doing is something that promotes wellness.
All right. Well, what we need to do is figure out what the record. We're trying to figure out what the records say to see if we have the ability to approve that request. So,
okay.
Is there an issue? And this is directed to Ms. Byrne or Mr. French or Simon, any of you. If the last time this was used as a pizza carryout shop was 3 years ago, does that present an issue for approval today?
There may be an issue because there are provisions in the code about the length of time in which a non-conforming use is considered to be abandoned or discontinued.
Right.
And in this case, it may be discontinued, as he's clearly stating that there must still be some equipment in this place. But the issue is he's going to have to show that the last time it was used was not more than, I believe, either 12 months or 24 months from the time he filed this application to use it as a carryout.
Well, he already said it was
3 years.
Yes, it's
Go ahead, Bill.
been about 2 or 3 years, definitely. It's been that because the whole pandemic last year definitely, it was hectic and stuff like that for any kind of business to be doing anything. So.
Do you rent the space, sir?
Yes.
Is it the same landlord that operated it
Yes.
when the pizza shop was operated?
Yes. Yes. The same owners and everything. I've been dealing with them for years, and they've been real nice, and they've been understanding, and they know from the whole time that was there, it was an eatery. I mean, I have a section, you really can't tell from the floor plan, but I have a section when customers do come in, there's something that they can go back and they can sit down, but it's not no tables in there or anything like that for them to eat, because it wasn't ever established for an eatery like a restaurant.
Okay, so
Everything
the critical
was
issue we're dealing with is how long the pizza shop operation has ceased or discontinued. Now that's determined by code as to whether or not it then becomes approvable or not by us. Based on your earlier testimony of 3 years, that would be too long.
Well, you know, nothing was going on in the pandemic, which was last year, and you know.
I understand that. I don't know that the code, provides for pandemic relief because it was written before the pandemic came about. But we nevertheless have to deal with the timeframes that are set forth in the code. So I guess here's where we are. What I'm about to suggest, Ms. Byrne, is if you would like a postponement to gather some evidence to be able to present to us the definitive time frame as to how long this prior operation has, how long it's been vacant or abandoned or discontinued. We can come back and pick up that information and consider whether or not that meets the threshold for our ability to approve of the request. But it's all going to be determined by what the code says and what we need our facts to apply to the code. So would you like a postponement, sir?
Yes, I understand.
Would you like a postponement?
I said yes, I understand. Yes.
Okay, I understand you understand. I'm asking if you want to postpone the case.
The
Today.
first thing is I said yes, and then I said I understand. I understand, yes, I would like to postpone.
Okay, great. That answers my question. We'll go ahead and, Ms. Byrne, you can do what needs to be done from the office standpoint to reset it.
Sure, we'll reach back out to you, sir, to reschedule, and then to give you the we'll take a look, and you can take a look to see where things stand with the non-conforming use versus the use that you want to move forward.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Very well. So we are now moving on to case number 2021-061. 17 East North Avenue. The appellant is Harford House Limited Partnership, and this matter addresses variance to bulk regulations and off-street parking for renovation and construction of a two-story rear addition and use as 33 dwelling units. Now here, staff and their planning reports.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that the purpose of this application is to increase the capacity, basically, of the Harford House to serve homeless or formerly homeless individuals. This property is located in the Oliver NDP Urban Renewal Plan area, and that urban renewal plan does not prohibit or further restrict the proposed use. The property is basically built over, so there is limited ability to provide any on-site off-street parking. However, the particular people who may be living there may not be people who actually have private transportation. For these reasons, the Department of Planning is recommending approval of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Really, the only reason this one is on the contested docket is the large minimum lot area variance required. 18,150 square feet required, 6,000 square feet are proposed. Additional variances requested, minimum corner side yard setback, 10 feet required, 0 proposed. Off-street parking variance, 33 spaces required, 0 proposed. Lots of support for this application, at least 17 letters of support from members of the Oliver community, including a letter from Councilman Stokes. Nicole Folks is the applicant. I will now make her a panelist.
Okay.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nicole Folks. I'm representing Harford House Limited Partnership, which is controlled by Govern's Ecumenical Development Corporation. And Ms. Burns, Nicole Battle, who is the CEO of Govern's Ecumenical Development Corporation, GEDCO, is also on the line. So could you please unmute her as well?
Yes, I've just made her a panelist, and she is also unmuted.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, Nicole, did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying good afternoon.
Okay, so for everyone's enjoyment, we have 2 Nicoles today. Uh, so we'll try to make it clear who's speaking. So this is the lawyer, Nicole, and thank you for considering this appeal. GEDCO does important work throughout the city, and Harford House is one of their properties. And the property is known as Harford House, and that's the 1517 East North Avenue property. GEDCO actually acquired this property because the city asked them to. DHCD contacted them back in 1991 when the owner at that time was no longer able to further operate the property, and the city wanted to continue this important use. And so GEDCO stepped in, created Harford House Limited Partnership, and has controlled the property since then. The purpose of this appeal, I won't go through all of the documentation we submitted into the record, but the purpose of the appeal is for those variances that Ms. Byrne referenced, as well as for a change in use. This is based on both the change in the zoning code and the fact that Harford House, with the proposed renovations, there would be kitchenettes and private bathrooms installed into each of the 33 units, because currently the property is 26 SROs. And so that's why we're changing it to multifamily. So the spirit of Harford House will remain the same. It just will be vastly improved, much needed renovations, bringing the building up to date, new sprinkler system, adding in ADA compliant entrances on the side and the rear, which will also allow some ADA compliant units for tenants that require that type of room. And so we're asking for that change of use as well. With the lot area, we're working within the confines of what we have. If the plans, the architect that GEDCO has engaged, the plans have been very efficiently drawn, and they show that now the spaces will actually be vastly improved. Some of the current seating areas, like gathering areas, will be taken away and turned into individual units. But then the other gathering areas, the meeting rooms, will be much improved. So with that, I will hand it over to Nicole Battle, once again, the CEO of GEDCO. If you want to add anything, Nicole. Obviously the issue before the BMCA right now are all the variances, but focusing on the lot area, that you're squeezing a lot into what was formerly 3 lots, but you're maximizing the space and using it very efficiently.
Correct. Thank you, Nicole. And I mean, everything you said is correct. And all of our changes are also correct. It's really to improve the residential experience of our existing and new men who may move into the community. One of the things that we're also adding is really some outdoor space that doesn't exist, that, as we've all known during COVID, having some sort of outdoor space contributes to improving your mental health. So we've incorporated also some outdoor space within the building footprint. We are constrained by our existing footprint, so we were unsuccessful in acquiring the vacant lots next to us. So we're essentially just kind of building up, not building past what the existing height of the facility is, but there's part of the building where it hasn't been built up to the 3rd floor. We're just building up a couple of units a couple floors in the back, so that we can accommodate the changes that Nicole has just presented. It's a great community. Probably most of our neighbors don't even know we're there. None of our neighbors have ever had to complain about us. We have a great management company. We have a staff of 5 full and part-time service coordinators. And we have some great men. And as you all know, there's just a dire need of addressing the housing needs of people who are homeless. And this is just really what we're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
If I could just add, I'm sorry, Mr. Fields, if I could just add, there's been community support for this application, and GEDCO actually participated in a charrette that both the Oliver Community Association and Marcella Wallace from planning organized, and it was very successful, and they received a lot of community support there. They were able to answer questions and make sure the neighbors knew what was being planned and what to anticipate with any future construction. And we really appreciate Councilman Stokes' letter of support. I feel like he included some vital statistics, and I hope you look at it because it really hits the head on why this housing is so urgent in the city. And so with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Folks. Do you have any additional folks we want to hear from, that we want to speak?
I am not aware of anyone else on behalf of this. Are you, Nicole?
I am not.
All right. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
No.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you, ma'am, Ms. Folks and Ms. Battle for your presentation, and we'll be happy to take this up the next phase in deliberations.
Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to case number 2021-062, 1521 West Lombard. The appellant is Gavin Nichols, and this matter involves variance to bulk regulations and off-street parking for renovation of the detached structure in the rear and to use two new additional dwelling units. Now, hear any reports?
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Union Square Historic District. This particular property is improved with two separate buildings. There is the principal building on the property, which is a large 3-story row house facing on Union Square Park, which is being divided into 4 dwelling units as previously approved. And that particular use uses up the entire permitted lot area per dwelling unit for this property. The application is proposing 2 additional dwelling units, which would require a substantial variance in order to be approved. The rear building on the property is a 2-story garage type building, which functionally could be considered a form of a carriage house in the more traditional historic character of Baltimore City. And its use as a single dwelling unit is certainly something that the Planning Department could consider approvable, as again, the building is basically physically the type of building that would be converted as a carriage house to an additional dwelling unit in a number of other locations in this city. Because this property is in Union Square Historic District, the applicant did ask for and receive approval from the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation and authorization to proceed, which was issued on August the 11th of 2020. The department has no objection to approval of 1 additional dwelling unit in this rear building if the applicant provides the board information establishing that the variance is needed for approval, comply with standards for approval of a variance as specified in subsection 5-308A of the zoning code. If the board does grant approval, the Department of Planning recommends that approval of this application be subject to the condition that all exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, and alterations, are completed in accordance with the authorization to proceed issued on August 11th of 2020 by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Martin, do I hear you say that planning would approve 1 unit but not 2?
That is correct.
Thank you.
As Mr. French stated, there are currently, it's used for 4 dwelling units, so this would increase the total number of dwelling units. The application would increase the total number of dwelling units to 6. The variance requested is minimum lot area variance of 3,000 square feet. 0 square feet are proposed. Off-street parking variance, 2 would be required and 0 are proposed. We have letters in opposition from Union Square Association, specifically concerned about the off-street parking variance. In addition, we have a letter from a neighbor concerned about, again, trash and parking. The Lemon Street, which I believe this property faces, has no street parking at all. And then there's minimal parking on Lombard Street. So I think the back of this property faces Lemon Street. I have, let's see, Gavin Nichols is the architect, so I'm going to make you a panelist. And the applicant, Mr. Nichols.
Give me 1 minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, great. First, may I speak or? Okay, Gabriel Nichols, architect, designer of the project. Let me do this. Maybe I can mute this and talk on the computer. Can you hear me better now, sir, ma'am?
Sure can, and I don't hear an echo, so that's great.
Well, that was the phone. It's been a little difficult here. So I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to speak with us today. Hearing what the planning director has indicated and the neighborhood association comments, I believe we should be able to accommodate the request by amending or adapting our application to allow 1 unit. We had spoken with both the president and vice president of the association locally about a trash issue that occurred when a tenant moved out and left trash behind one of the neighbors' properties. We had suggested perhaps a trash protection area that I designed and sent out to them, but understanding that parking may be the bigger issue, I believe it would be prudent to ask for your approval to allow us to do 1 unit. We could accommodate that on the upper floor. It also might then allow us to create a situation where we can have the tenants in the main building on Lombard walk through the garage to put their trash out on the alley side when it's picked up. So I think to keep things succinct and to accommodate any concerns the neighbors have, I would be asking you to guide me towards getting approved for the 1 additional unit, which it seems everybody would support.
Okay, well, let's hear from the rest of the folks to hear exactly what their issues are with regard to the parking. What is it that you'd be in the position to do regarding parking, if anything?
Well, we have a 2-car garage at the moment. We could still keep 2 cars there, but my proposal at the moment was to put 1 car in there, maybe a little studio shop for somebody, or a place where the tenants could do some, craft work of some sort. The garage has a little bit of a roof structure problem. We're going to be repairing that, which then went down to the floor below, which is the ceiling of the first floor. And we have to redo the ground level pavement in the garage. So it does need some remedial work. But if parking's an issue, currently I don't believe anybody parks in the garage. We were just trying to do minimum improvements to the structure by inserting a new door on the left side, which would then allow us a garage and a studio on the first level and a second unit upstairs, which involves the continuation of existing steps. But I'm open to be cooperative.
Okay, thank you. It's always great to hear. Great, Ms. Byrne, I don't know who we go to.
It looks like we have some people here who wish to testify. I'll start. I think it's Ms. Hogan. Ms. Hogan, do you wish to testify on this issue? Ms. Hogan? Okay. All right, I'm going to work through, let's see, Mr. Kelly, do you wish to testify on this issue? All right. Let's try Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman, do you wish to testify on this issue? Ms. Kelly? Ms. Kelly, do you wish to testify on this issue? All right, it looks like Ms. Hogan has put in the chat that her headphone is not working. So I'm gonna ask her to just type whatever into the chat, whatever she would like to say. So Ms. Hogan, if you could please type in the chat what it is you wish to say about this application. And then I'm gonna go to, let's see. I'm just working my way through some of the people that are still here. Let's see, Mr. Guntz, do you wish to testify on this issue? Right. As I go through, I'm gonna unmute call-in users now. Do you wish to testify on this issue? Do you wish to testify on this issue? All right.
Reverb.
Yeah, got some of that. Do you, Mr. George, do you wish to testify on this issue? All right. So let's see. Ms. Hogan types, we would be open to one unit. Our main concern is the garbage produced by 6+ tenants and of course parking. And that's the issue that was raised in the letter by Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Michael, who live next door at 1523 West Lombard. I think that's, if anybody else is here to testify on 1521 West Lombard, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. None of the call-in users are here for this issue. So I think that's it for those wishing to testify. So Mr. Nichols, you're unmuted again.
All right. I think we've heard loud and clear about trash. I believe I'm willing to ask the board to approve a 1 unit, and we can continue to use the lower level as parking for 2 cars. That would also allow us to eliminate a trash situation where tenants have to walk all the way around the block to put their trash in the lemon alley containers. They could now come through the garage, from the courtyard through the garage, put them in the trash containers in the garage, and the owner would roll them out with his management company on the trash pickup days. So I think we solved most of everybody's concerns. We had reached out to them. We didn't hear back. I'm totally available to folks, and we will ask the board for their approval of a 1 unit and the variance associated with that.
So in your garage, you're proposing 2 parking spaces and a trash receptacle?
The trash receptacles could be kept on the interior courtyard, which is on the interior edge of the garage between it and the bigger 4-story building.
Well, I don't have any, it'd be nice if we could see this stuff, this plan.
But I had elevations and plans of the whole building. I'm just.
Where do you plan to put the unit, the additional unit?
2nd floor only.
2nd floor of the
Existing garage.
Okay, and is I guess I'm asking Katie, is a studio permitted?
As a unit, you can have a studio under the building code. So you can have an efficiency, you can have a studio.
He was talking about a studio, meaning art studio or whatever.
Oh, that would be, yeah, that would be a whole separate use. It couldn't be, it would be a dwelling unit.
That would be our intent, to rent it out to a private residence.
As a private residence, not a studio for art, but like as a studio apartment. I know this is unusual, but it looks like Ms. Hogan can speak now, and she was the person who was in opposition. So I think it would be good if she could speak instead of me just trying to read her chats. So
would be great.
Mr. Fields, are you okay with that? Okay. All right, Mr. Nichols, if you could hold on a moment. All right. Ms. Hogan? Ms. Hogan? Let me try making you a panelist and see if that works. Ms. Hogan? I don't think it's working either. What she typed in the chat is only 2 units have access to the carriage house and the trash cannot be stored there. So that's, I guess those were issues that she raised. And Mr. Nichols, you're unmuted.
I'm still unclear. So you're asking for 1 additional unit and that'll be a studio apartment over the garage?
Yes, sir.
And once again, try to explain to me the situation with 2 parking spaces in the garage and this trash receptacle.
Okay. What I plan to propose is tandem parking inside the existing garage, which is an all-brick structure. We're going to fire rate the floor ceiling assembly above it, so the residential piece above it can be accessible by a set of stairs that leads to the Lemon Alley. It has windows overlooking an interior courtyard between the 2-story structure and the 4-story building. Since the neighbors had complained about a tenant who had left trash behind their property, we had proposed to the neighbors that perhaps we could design a freestanding trash enclosure structure. Since we're now going to be requesting only 1 second-story unit, it would make sense that we have enough space in that particular garage in width, it's 17 feet wide, to store several rolling trash can containers, which could service the 2 units in the 4-story building and the 1 unit in the new upper garage. The other 2 units in the 3rd and 4th floor, I guess, would have to walk around the block still to put their trash in the alley.
You keep saying perhaps and maybe. So you actually haven't drawn up these plans. You're just kind of shooting.
No, we have plans that we submitted to the historic folks that shows the 2nd floor apartment. It shows the stairs, it shows the new door. All we would be revising is where I have the lower efficiency apartment, turning that one into a 2-second space to park a garage car.
Where's the lower efficiency unit? I don't even know which.
It's at the ground. We're going to eliminate that. It's to the ground level where the garage is now is 17 feet by 40 feet long. That's just going to remain parking for garage cars. No change. So the only thing we're doing now is we're going to add the 2nd story.
It looks like, I apologize for interrupting again, but it looks like we have someone in the chat who's also here for 1521 West Lombard. I know this, I'm sorry, Mr. Nichols, I know this is your kind of rebuttal time, but I want to make sure that we get in all the testimony.
Okay,
So I'm gonna
hold that thought, Mr. Nichols, and we'll go to this caller and get it.
Right. And Ms. Hogan is says only the basement and 1st floor unit of the main structure can be accessed as access the carriage house. 3rd and 4th floor tenants still need to go around the block to dispose of their trash. The garbage is collected on Lemon. So I think that's part of, I guess, what we're having difficulty with. So hello, you can go proceed. I have you as DM.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. To kind of like segue what Mr. Cunningham was saying, the question is, the architect mentioned the garage being somehow changed. As I understand, the garage is not a big space, 1. 2, if they're going to reconsider that space, how would that work? Are you trying to, it doesn't seem like it would accommodate 2 cars, but correct me if I'm mistaken. Point 1. Point 2, the dwelling or the carriage house was meant to be 2 units now. The architect is saying it's a 1 unit, meaning you're going to have a renter on the 2nd floor. The 1st floor will just remain a garage. I am not understanding what he's saying. If you can clarify himself, please.
I'm with you on that.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, sir, and we're going to, Mr. Nichols. Mr. Nichols.
To clarify, if you drew a little rectangle on your pad in front of you, because I don't know if you have the plans we submitted, you have 17 feet in width by 40 feet long. That would allow me to park 2 cars on the ground level of the existing garage with no change to the structure. So that's 2 parking spaces, which are currently not used because of the little bit rundown garage above it. Above the garage is another 17-foot by 40-foot space stacked on top of the lower level. All 4 walls are brick masonry, 2-hour to 4-hour fire-rated assemblies. We have a sloping roof on the structure. The height of the lower level garage is existing 10 feet, 10 inches tall. The upper level has a sloping roof of 8 foot 8 inches to 11 feet. We would put one rentable housing unit on the second floor, accessible by the existing stairway in the structure. No changes required other than replacing a window that is a little bit worn, putting it back into the same opening. So we're asking for one apartment with 2 parking spaces below it. Update the structure so it's all fire rated, that no fires can break up and cause issues for the second floor people. Since the neighbors have today and before issued some concerns about trash, and I've not been in the 4-story structure, we had suggested that we keep several trash containers, the rolling ones, in the garage for those people that can access the garage from either the courtyard side or the open garage door side. The request originally was for 2 units. We're now asking for 1 unit. And that would require me to do a little bit of erasing on the second apartment we had proposed on the first floor, which is no longer in our request. And have I cleared it up for everybody?
So the units on the second and third floor, how will they access this trash receptacle?
They can't access it now, evidently. They have to go out on the street of Lombard and walk around the block to put their trash behind the house.
And that will continue?
That would continue on those upper apartments that are not accessible to the courtyard, sir. Now, with this small unit, we're probably looking at a 1-person apartment.
Where? The new one?
The new one on the second floor of the existing garage. We're not building any floors, roofs. We're just putting some interior walls in with a kitchen and a bathroom. There's no exterior work to this garage other than repairing maybe some brick cracks.
And you're telling me 2 cars and the trash receptacle will be in the first floor of the garage?
That would allow us to take whatever concern the neighbors had about trash cans being in the alley or Lemon Street side of the building and hiding them in the garage behind a garage door.
Katie, do you have the drawings for this?
I do. Do you want me to put them up?
Well, I just want to know if there's room for 2 cars in a trash receptacle and how that whole thing will work.
Okay.
Well, typically, if you look at a parking lot, sir, a parking space is 10 feet wide by 18 feet to 20 feet long. We have a 40-foot long building, which would allow me to put 2 cars, one behind another, and take up 9 feet. I have 17 foot in width, and your trash containers are about 3 feet by 3 feet. So I have plenty of room to put them in that first floor.
Wait a minute. Now, so you're going to put cars bumper to bumper?
Well, that's all I can do. It was originally a horse carriage, and
That's not 2 parking spaces. What if I'm the first car in there and somebody parks behind me? How do I get out?
we'd have to have them move the car.
Well, that doesn't sound very practical to me. So I think you have a parking problem.
Well,
And your proposal doesn't solve it.
my proposal, what, sir?
Your proposal does not solve the parking issue.
Would it be okay to hear from the other board members?
Just to jump in here, I know we have in the chat, and Mr. Fields, up to you if you want to continue to hear either from Ms. Hogan or from DM, who was our other person, because I know Mr. Nichols has the last word. James?
He's muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Let's go ahead and hear them. Mr. Nichols can still have the last word, but
Okay.
in fairness, let's give them opportunity to speak if they wish to be heard.
Sure. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Is it me talking, DM?
It is DM. Yes.
I think Mr. Cunningham and myself are in agreement because he said it, nailed it right on the head. You have 2 spaces, bumper to bumper. I ain't going to work at 7 o'clock. My neighbor's going to work at 9 o'clock, vice versa. I'm going to go knock on his door. Excuse me, move your car every time I want to get out. That is not reality as we all live in this world, right? I mean, people work nighttime, evening time. I'm not going to keep knocking on somebody's door to get out my car, right? That's one story. Forget about the garbage. The garbage can't fit in there because there's barely enough space for the cars to even negotiate the space. And furthermore, the garbage that we talked about, people on the top floor, how they get the garbage in and out. I mean, it's to Mr. Cunningham's point, the parking space is not solved by bumper space. I understand spaces in, you know, if you go to a parking, to a mall, the space is small, but guess what? You're not against the wall, and you can get out anytime you want. You come back in and out anytime you want. In a closed space, garage door, you got to talk to your neighbor, negotiate with your neighbor, wake him up and say, excuse me, I want to go to work. He's sleeping. So that's my, you know, garbage issue is predominantly the issue that we will have, but Mr. Cunningham's point is well taken. Bumper to bumper situation is not exactly an attainable, realistic approach to solving the parking issue.
May I offer a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask for a deferral so that I can go meet with the particular neighbors that have a concern, get you very crisp and clear drawings, and have perhaps a lease agreement with some tenants, which would perhaps solve this parking situation and trash.
Yeah, I thought about suggesting that a while ago, but I think you were thinking, Mr. Nichols, that maybe you had a situation that a remedy for all of this, but it's also a little difficult for us to visualize all of this and what changes there might be. So I'm happy to grant you that opportunity to speak with them, so you don't lose the opportunity to get this back before the board.
If I can ask one more question, since we did supply drawings in the application, do you not have those in front of you so I can prepare better for the next meeting?
No, we do have the drawings, I believe, that you submitted for the application, but if you're going to make changes to the drawings, they would need to be indicated.
Yeah, that's what we need to see.
I would request a formal deferral if the board would entertain that option.
Postponement, I think I'm fine with it. Board, let's say you.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because we'd rather have you all get together and see if you can, you know, compromise and come to a resolution, and then come to us. That would be great. So, Ms. Byrne, you can let them know whenever they would get back on the calendar, but the date may be determined by how your discussions go and the amount of time you need to prepare some drawings, perhaps. So.
Right. And Ms. Hogan, I see that you've texted that you're calling in, but in light of the postponement request, I'm not gonna mute or unmute anybody else going forward.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. All right. This was 2021-062, and that is going to be postponed for.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Thank you all on that.
Thank you.
All right. I'll get my dog to stop barking. Next.
All right.
We need to go back to the top of the docket.
I think we have one.
So you have a big variance.
2021-065.
Yeah. 2021-065, 3358 Strickland Street. The appellant is Muhammad Salim, and this is a request to use the premises for or as 3 dwelling units and associated variances. Hear any staff and planning reports that we may have.
Planning department has no comment on this application at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. French.
The project is to use the premises as a multifamily dwelling consisting of 3 dwelling units, 2 dwelling units in the front, 1 dwelling unit in the rear. It is in an R6 zone. So the variances requested are for the 3 dwelling units and a minimum lot area variance. The issue here is that the board doesn't have the legal authority to convert a single-family dwelling into a multifamily dwelling. And the research on this application is that we pulled the old zoning card, and in 1954 it was 2 dwelling units. In 1996, a use permit was issued to use the premises as a single-family dwelling, with a portion to be used as an office for the home occupation of an auto wholesaler, with no vehicles stored on the premises and no business conducted at the residence other than by phone. In January of 2021, the property was fined for work without permit for closing a rear garage and converting it into living space. In February of 2021, fined for failing to register as a rental property and failing to obtain a use permit. So the last legal authorized use was as a single family dwelling with an home occupation office. So it does not have a legal use as a multifamily. So the board doesn't have the authority to convert a single family to a multifamily in an R6 zone. Mr. Salim is on the call. I will make him a panelist.
Thank you.
Mr. Salim?
Yes, I'm here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Salim. Were you able to hear what Ms. Byrne just stated regarding the history of this property and what its basically legal status is as a single-family dwelling?
So it can only be used as a single family dwelling.
Correct. Its last legal status or appropriate authorized legal status was as a single-family dwelling, I believe in 1996, and there's been no change to that status. And given the district in which you're situated, an R6 zoning district, you cannot convert single family to multifamily. That's where we are.
I thought the zoning is C1 for this district. I'm in my house.
You believe you're in a C1 zoning district? Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Ms. Byrne,
I will check it really quickly. It is R6. Across the street is I1. Behind it is I1. But this block of Strickland on the even side is R6.
That's an understanding of the district concern.
I'm listening.
Okay, so where we are is if the zoning is correct, which we've confirmed that it is, in an R6 zoning district, you cannot convert single family to multifamily. And more to the point, this board is not authorized to grant approval to your request to do so. That's where we are.
So I can just use it as a single family dwelling.
Correct.
But the problem is that how to go to each one of these 3 units.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
I said the problem is that I can, one has to go outside of one unit to go to the other, then go outside to go to the third one.
Well, it sounds like somebody created those units, looks like without authorization, to make it a multi-dwelling property. That's unfortunate. Because it doesn't look like we don't have the paperwork and the paper trail to confirm that it was an authorized change. So,
didn't I hear that from Ms. Byrne that the history shows different uses of it at different times?
Yes, but we have to go with what the last use was. So in 1954, there were 2. The last legal authorized use was as a single family with a home office.
So that multifamily dwelling status in 1954 changed in 1996 when someone affirmatively changed it to a single family. There have been no legal authorized changes since,
Is there
despite
another,
what it might look like.
Is there
Sir?
another authority that I can apply to for multi-dwelling since this board is not authorized to do this?
Well, the change is not authorized under the code. So whether you come to the board or write a letter to the president, it's not going to authorize you to use it as anything other than a single-family dwelling.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, are there any others that we missed and have to go back to, Ms. Byrne?
I think there's only one, and that was for 2020 088, the Alameda,
Right.
the 2763, the Alameda. So
Right.
we still have 2 call-in users. So I'll see if anybody is here for 2763, the Alameda. If you hear 2 beeps, please speak if you're here for this. If anyone is here for the 2763, the Alameda, please put something in the chat now or raise your hand. I don't see anyone raising their hands, and there's nothing in the chat. So, I mean, at this point, I think this is the second time that we've scheduled this, and this the owner has not responded. So maybe we'll give them one more shot, and then they're gonna have to reapply.
Yeah, I think we based that one more shot on what you hear from the owner as to why he couldn't appear today.
Yep, got it.
Because maybe this was the last shot. I don't know.
Might be. All right. So we'll reach out and ask why they weren't here.
Hey, Katie,
Yep.
do we have any communications from Chum, Mark Washington, or Councilperson Ramos?
On this one, no.
Nothing?
Mm-mm.
That's unusual, huh?
Well, I want to say it's probably because I have a feeling it's been illegally used as an MFD since 2012. Not gonna lie, and here's why: because they went through the process to get the UNO back in 2012, but it looks like they failed the use and occupancy for some minor building permit stuff, and then just kept on going because nobody bothered them. And now either they have a notice or it's a new owner and they realize, or more than likely they have to get a license. They have to get their rental license and they can't because they don't have a UNO. So I have a feeling that on the face of it, it's been used as an MFD all this time. And so that's why we probably haven't heard anything, because it might not be a big deal for them. That's my gut. That's kind of what my gut is telling me.
Sure. All right.
I haven't
We'll
thrown
bear
them
it out.
under the bus or anything, but that's just kind of what I
Yeah,
think
that's what
is
the tea
happening.
leaves are saying right now. So
Mhm.
we'll give you an opportunity to maybe reach out to the owner and govern ourselves accordingly once we hear what that's all about.
Yep.
Okay. Very well. So I think this concludes the docket for today,
It does.
and we'll proceed to the deliberation portion of the hearing.